What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. And in today's video, I'm going to be building an awesome gaming PC build inside of one of Corsair's brand new headline PC cases. A system that's obviously going to offer up great gaming performance at 1080p, 1440p, and even 4K. I'm also going to be going all out on aesthetics in this system to try and assemble one of the best looking white gaming PCs you can buy right now. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. The ASUS Back to School promotion is here, and you can now receive up to £445 of cashback with the purchase of eligible ASUS products. Whether you're after a new monitor, CPU cooler, or motherboard, or looking to upgrade your networking with one of ASUS's extensive range of indoor or outdoor routers, you've got plenty of options. Shop eligible products at the first link below until the 29th of September, and claim your cashback by the 13th of October to save big. Learn more at the first links in the description below. Now, I'm going to walk through all the parts while I put this PC together, but I do want to start by taking a look at the case, because this right here is Corsair's brand new Frame 4500X. Corsair have been on a bit of a comeback recently. They've obviously produced some of the most popular and successful PC cases the industry's seen over the years, and after a couple of launches that maybe didn't go their way, they do look to have really put a lot of time, energy, and focus into their new range. And this right here is another spiritual successor that takes inspiration from some of their popular cases from the past few years. Straight away, we get great marks for packaging material. That stuff is the best kind of foam. And even the box, they've actually printed the inside, which I actually think looks, it's a bit trippy, really. I feel like I'm on some sort of sensory experience in there. And here we have it. Now, it's built on the same platform and much of the same tooling as the Frame 4000 that we've looked at recently, but actually does things a little bit nicer and costs you a fair bit more money. The main differences are we've got this curved tempered glass side panel on the front and the side. It's all one piece. That's pretty common nowadays. We've got this really cool waterfall ventilation design here that actually follows on from the top of the case all the way down, which I actually really rather like. You can buy this case in a few different versions. I believe you can get it with or without fans, but confusingly, there are two different fan variants. So this is the standard cheaper case, retailing for around $169. That gives you three of Corsair's RS ARGB fans, or for around about $60 more, $70 more dollars, you can get ones with the LX120 fans. In fact, you get the reverse blade, and these are the IQ Link fans, which I think look a lot better. As much as it's kind of a confusing approach, I guess they've done that to make the case more affordable. At over $200, it is a very, very expensive chassis for what you get, but of course a lot of that cost is in the fans. So I guess they can't win really whichever approach they take. Now, this panel slides off really nicely. You can see there's like a little sliding mechanism, and then we should be able to remove it, and you can see, I mean, the thickness and weight of that tempered glass is absolutely extraordinary, and you can see there's a lovely curve on there. That's the trend nowadays, and I actually really like it. The only critique I'd give it straight off the bat is that the fan variant should really come with an exhaust fan as well. I appreciate this is going to increase cost, but not having an exhaust fan on a case is quite poor, especially when you consider the fact that you might have a radiator with fans at the top. That's just an extra thing you've got to buy, and I don't love that quite so much. You get lots of the same great features from the original frame. You've got this GPU support bracket, which is good. We've got a nice little power supply shield, but they've curved it over here to give us room for an additional fan at the front. It would be nice if this fan could be mounted slightly further forward and be in line with these side fans, but I'll reserve full judgment till later. So to get the top piece off, you've actually got to take off the side piece, and then that frees the top piece. Yeah, okay. Kind of get it. And then at the rear of the case here, what you'll see is we've got loads of cable tie-down points. The only thing I don't like about the ARGB fan approach is you've got so many wires, which the IQ Link version isn't going to have. And of course, things like reverse connect motherboard support and room for the IQ Link little hub, should you choose to actually include it. Now then, time for the parts I'm going to put in it. So let's start with the motherboard. I've gone AMD platform in today's build. That's going to come as a surprise to no one with this X870 AORUS Elite Wi-Fi 7 ICE motherboard from Gigabyte. I've said said it before and I'll say it again, Gigabyte do an absolutely incredible job on their white motherboards. I think they're just a better design than a lot of other options out there. This board's got loads of quality of life features. You've got toolless M.2 slots for your Gen 5 and also your Gen 4 slots. You've got a nice little quick release button for the graphics card with this nice shielding. Everything's color matched, from the CPU power to the RAM DIMMs to the motherboard, the Q code, even the fan and USB shrouds are all the right color. The PCB's white. We've got the X870 chipset. I haven't gone for X870E, which is the extreme version. We just don't need the extra PCI lanes and bandwidth for what we actually want to achieve in today's build. I can't get this back on. There we go. Now, if you wanted to save a bit of cash, you could definitely jump down to a B850 board, and Gigabyte and others have got some options that would work well, that I'll link down below. But I wanted to go high end for this build and really push this case to its max by putting some really nice hardware inside. Now, in terms of the RAM, I've kind of kept with the Corsair theme today. I do really like Corsair iCUE. I'm gonna change these fans out for the slightly higher end versions to simulate the more expensive case option, so we can sync up their Vengeance RGB kit. 6,000 megahertz this kit with a CL of 30 and 32 gigs in total. That's two 16 gig DIMMs, which is all we need for a gaming oriented system. For storage, I've also gone pretty high end, the Samsung 9100 Pro. This is one of the best Gen 5 drives out there right now. This drive's 4 terabyte. They recently released an 8 terabyte version, or you could drop down to 2. I wouldn't entertain a 1 terabyte Gen 5 drive. I just don't see the point in paying for all the new tech and then filling it up in like 10 minutes. And in terms of the CPU, I've gone for the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D, obviously the fastest desktop chip on the market right now, and that makes it a really great shout for the build today. Taking a look, I'd really love to see Intel provide some better competition to AMD, especially when you consider that the 9800X 3D isn't just slightly faster than what Intel have to offer, it's quicker than AMD's own 7800X 3D, which itself is still quicker than basically all the Intel choices. I'd love to see that change and just have a few more options really. In terms of the CPU, I'll be installing it into the only CPU socket you'll find on this motherboard, as if any motherboard has more than one socket, and this is really easy to do. You guys would have seen me do this a million times. I'm then going to finish off the motherboard assembly by adding in the RAM to the second and fourth DIMM slots and the SSD to the top Gen 5 PCI slot. Now, in terms of cooling for the 9800X 3D, it is a chip that is going to need a bit of cooling firepower, and I've picked up the Corsair Titan 360. Now, this comes with Corsair's RX fans, which confusingly are different to their higher end LX fans that the higher end version of this case includes. However, they are still IQ linked, so they should all still connect together with one cable. They should all be controllable in software, and we should be able to get nice effects across the whole system. This cooler is rather nice because it's 360 millimeters, as I mentioned before, and you can see that the white colorway is going to match perfectly for the build today. The big question though is, have Corsair used the same shade of white on the paint for the cooler and the radiator? Yeah, I'd say that's pretty close. The top cap on this cooler is actually removable, so you can actually take it off if you like, and Corsair do other modules with things like screens on that you can replace should you wish. If you keep the stock included cap, this can actually rotate. It's on a magnet, so irrespective of your orientation, you can get that in just fine. Now, I'm not going to install the cooler just yet, but I just want to point out how easy this is to install, and how actually I think Corsair have the best mounting method for AM5 out of basically anybody. All you've got to do is install these AMD specific brackets. You can see there's just one on the bottom and then a further one on the top, making sure the screw threads are the right way round. And then basically what happens is these screw threads are just going to screw straight in to the 4 holes on the motherboard. So we haven't got to add any standoffs in, we haven't got to do anything fancy. It's literally super duper simple. So what I'm going to do first then is install the motherboard into the case. A quick glance at the case shows everything's in the right location, which should make things nice and easy. And then start working on the radiator. The next job then is to get the radiator secured in. Now I'm going to add the fans on first, but I just want to kind of understand where I'm going to mount it. So we're going to go at the top here. That means our fans are going to be obviously underneath, exhausting air out of the case. So that's going to be like so. And then I also want to think about how I'm running my IQ Link cable. Preferably, we want to come out this side at the back just to keep the cable nice and hidden. Once the rad's in and looking, I think, pretty good, it's now time for the fans. So as I say, I'm going to replace the 3 on the side, 1 on the bottom, and maybe even add 2 here alongside a fan at the rear. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. I think the next step is, graphics card or power supply. Let's put the GPU in, just because I'm really interested to see how it looks. And I've gone for one of the hardest GPUs you can buy when it comes to testing a case, because this thing it's actually massive. This is the AORUS Master 5080, but in white, from Gigabyte. Oh yeah. Let's open up the box and pass the 120mm fan. It's a bit random. We have, oh, look at it. It's huge. It's ginormous. It is an absolute beast of a GPU. Now, if I hover it into the case, it fits. That's the first good sign. And look, that GPU support bracket is actually going to be, hopefully not in the way, actually, of the fan. This could be interesting. Now, this is a 3-slot design. It was actually basically a 4-slot design, but it's 3 physical PCI slots. So taking a look at the case, we're going to need to remove the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So I'm going to take those out. Oh, no. The fan is that magnetic that the screw's stuck. And 2 and 3. Lovely stuff. And then it's a simple case of sliding this absolute chunky boy into place. Does it fit? That's looking all right. Bit of pressure. Oh, that is beautiful. Now, the only slight mistake that I've made, possibly doing things in this order, is that with the fans at the bottom and the GPU, that's going to be a very difficult set of front panel cables to try and squeeze in. But that's a problem for a minute's time. Basically committed now anyway. Airflow-wise for the graphics card, this case should be pretty superb, because we've obviously got our 2 120mm intakes at the bottom and a further one down here. So GPU temperatures should be super duper low. Which leaves us with just one thing left to finish this build. It's time, of course, to install the power supply. And a few days later, the power supply has arrived. I did have an RM1000E, but I actually figured out we might as well try Corsair's Shift power supply in the build instead. Now, this one is 1000 watts, which is actually about right considering the power of the hardware we've got in this build. And you can see lovely design here with all of your shift cables on the side. The only thing I think Corsair could improve with this is actually making some of the cable ends on these cables themselves white rather than black. However, I think they're going to look pretty good nonetheless, and I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. I might need to take the GPU out to make a bit of space, and I'm also going to deal with the front panel cables at this point too. Okay, so what are my thoughts on this build? Now, it's all powered up and looking really quite pretty. Well, I do really like this Corsair case, and I think it gets a lot right. There are things I just plainly don't understand. The offset on the fan at the front is really quite bizarre. The lack of an exhaust fan is not really good enough, and I do think it's slightly too expensive. But the build quality is good, and the airflow is pretty strong too. But what about that all-important gaming performance? Well, as always, we tested a wide range of titles on this system. Everything from Apex Legends and Call of Duty to Doom the Dark Ages and Marvel's Rivals. And let's start off, shall we, with Marvel's Rivals at 4K high and take a closer look here. In this particular title, we saw an average frame rate of over 100 frames per second. That's not surprising given the prowess of the 5080 and blazing fast 9800X 3D, but still impressive at 4K nonetheless. In Doom the Dark Ages at 4K high settings, frame rates were lower, in fact the lowest of any result today at just 63 FPS. This is a very difficult to run, very demanding title, so even this is fairly impressive, but of course it would be nice to see this a little higher. Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K high gladly brings in a really positive 95 frames per second on average, which is great. Cyberpunk is a game that looks particularly good on Nvidia GPUs in my opinion. Well, finally, to wrap things up, we'll also take a look at Call of Duty's Black Ops 6. Here we're running at the 4K sort of high preset across the board and using the zombies mode. Here the build again performed really well, breaking through the 100 FPS barrier with up to 122 FPS on average. This is a system then that provides great performance exactly as you'd expect from the 5080 and 9800X 3D. But what do you think of Corsair's brand new 4500X? Would you buy one, or is it a little too pricey? Let me know in the comments down below.